it's kind of easy for us to take the quality of today's games for granted. By now, it's rare for a big game to come out that is all around terrible, and we mean like completely. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. When 3D gaming was on the rise, many developers struggled to transition from the two-dimensional landscape, while some franchises like Mario broke ground with this evolution. Here we go! There were many others that saw some of their weakest entries released during this period. Mortal Kombat, for example, saw its first 3D title released in 1997. While it was okay, it didn't quite reach the acclaim of the previous games in the series. Castlevania had its own struggles. Konami tried their hand at 3D games on the N64 with Castlevania 64 and Castlevania Legacy of Darkness in 1999. These were a far cry away from the high standards the series is known for. In fact, many franchises that had seen success in the 2D era made quite a few missteps along the way to 3D, but there is one game that is almost universally accepted as the absolute worst jump from 2D to 3D in gaming history. And that is the worthless train wreck of a game that was Bubsy 3D.
Oh, you wanna be a video game star?
If you don't remember Bubsy, that's completely understandable. The Bobcat starred in 2 games during the Sega Genesis/SNES era. Bubsy in Claw's Encounters of the Furred Kind, and the mercifully titled Bubsy 2. There was also Bubsy in Fractured Furry Tales on the forgotten Atari Jaguar, but it's forgotten, so. Even if these games weren't that great, they were released during the height of 2D platformer popularity. There was no way that Bubsy could compete with Mario or Sonic, or any of the other massive competitors. When games started to make the jump to 3D, however, this could have given Bubsy a chance to start fresh, to hit the ground running and reach the homes of new gamers aching for something new. But not like this. Not like this.
Was it something I said? What could possibly go wrong?
Released by Accolade for the original PlayStation in 1996, Bubsy 3D, Fur-Bitten Planet has a legacy for being one of the worst games ever actually made. And it undeniably deserves that legacy. This is a game that was so unanimously despised that it almost killed its character. Bubsy wouldn't see another release until 2017, a whopping 21 years after his 3D debut.
I've had in your face.
So what is it that makes Bubsy 3D so bad? Well, everything, basically. Every single thing. The story follows the titular hero as he is kidnapped by the Woolies, the alien enemies seen in his other games. They take Bubsy to space and plan on stealing all of Earth's wool for reasons. Bubsy escapes and must fight his way through different levels to defeat the Woolly Queens and build a rocket to get back to Earth. Yeah, it's stupid. Like really, really stupid. Even by early game standards. But that setup is just the first in an excruciatingly long list of things that are wrong with this game. And by the way, the cutscene explaining this plot is so remarkably awful that it serves as kind of a hint as what's to come.
How could this have happened? Well, that's a bit of a long story.
For starters, there's the atrocious sound design. Every track sounds like warped carnival music and features the same bizarre and irritating squeaks. We're not sure what instruments they were trying to replicate here, but they missed the mark, whatever that mark was. Bubsy himself is also incredibly annoying, speaking in a high-pitched shriek and never really shutting up. Imagine if a rejected cartoon sidekick with a million catchphrases got his own game and, well, you've got Bubsy. Then there are the visuals. Looking back at some of the first 3D games can make you realize that a lot of them have aged like crap. But Bubsy 3D looked terrible at the release, and you can tell that by comparing it to other games of the time. All of the character models are flat and uninteresting, and the same can be said in the level design. As this is a platformer with various obstacles and enemies, one would need some shading and definition in the environments to be able to traverse these areas. Without that, the game becomes needlessly difficult as you can hardly tell where an enemy is or which platform you should be jumping to next. It all makes the game just look like clunky, low-budget junk. But the problems with the level design don't just stop at the graphical shortcomings. Think back to your favorite platformers, the lush Aztec jungles of Crash Bandicoot, the giant loops and traps from Sonic the Hedgehog, the wacky worlds and power-ups of Super Mario Bros. Well, Bubsy 3D has none of that good shit. There is nothing that makes these levels unique. They're all just open rooms with different colored walls and platforms. This makes every level look like a test area that the developers forgot to take out before releasing the final game. Some of these can be very difficult to navigate through as they're all technically open-ended. But once you do figure out what you're supposed to do, good luck, because the stiff controls and the disorienting camera hinder you from making any actual progress. Bubsy can be unresponsive to your input, you see, sliding as you try to stop him from running into a wall. You must also stop him from moving if you want to adjust the camera, which takes entirely too long. So God help you if there's an enemy nearby. It becomes an even bigger problem once you get to the actual platforming too. The camera goes aerial whenever Bubsy jumps, which forces you to refocus instead of directing Bubsy where he's supposed to go. And because he is so sluggish to control, that means you're gonna fall, like a lot. And these problems never improve as you go on because each stage and enemy just gets harder. So we don't know why anyone would want to complete this game, but if you've got the patience of a saint, you're treated to a cutscene of Bubsy getting captured and the Woolies planning to invade Earth. Yeah, so even if you beat the game, you still lose.
The hairy fiend did not procure enough rockets to build a complete model.
To actually beat it, you gotta collect hidden rockets from each level. Then, Bubsy can officially escape. But his rockets enter a time shift and he ends up in the age of the dinosaurs, meaning the Woolies will still plan to invade Earth. Yep, it's a garbage ending to a garbage game that they thought they were gonna get a garbage sequel to, apparently. Bubsy 3D is just ugly in every sense of the word. The terrible graphics, the painful soundtrack and voice acting, and the pull your hair out and frustration-inducing controls all combine for a chaotic assault on the senses. Sometimes it can be kind of fun to revisit an old game for the sake of nostalgia, but in this case, there is no nostalgia. Everyone hated Bubsy 3D when it was released, and that hatred has only grown over time. It's honestly insulting to the medium to call this a video game. And thus, we can say that Bubsy's awful entrance into the third dimension is, by far, the worst 2D to 3D jump of all time.
Earth and all its wood will be ours!
Thanks for watching MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.